Hi there, this is Mr. Little, and I am interviewing the Reverend Dr. Tolbert here today, talking about Lent and Ash Wednesday. How are you?
All right, I'm doing great.
Excellent. All right, so first off, Dr. Tolbert, what is the season of Lent, and when does it begin?
Okay, so the season of Lent is the 40 days, not counting Sundays, that leads up to Easter. The word Lent actually means the spring season. It comes from an English word that's much more complicated. Now, the Latin word for Lent actually means the big 40. So it's the 40 days leading up to Easter, not counting Sundays.
Yeah, in Spanish, the word cuaresma, C-U-A-R-E-S-M-A, cuaresma looks a lot like 40, the number for 40.
Yes.
Cool.
So it's a time where people reflect on who they are and on life being fragile in a season of growth. So we think of spring as a time to grow. Lent's really a time for people who practice the Christian faith to set aside to grow. So think of it this way, much like a seed. It's a time of something dying so that something can grow more, like we see in the spring when we think of all the new flowers and things like that.
Oh, okay. But now, does Dr. Tolbert, do all Christians observe Lent?
No, so you're mainly going to find it in Catholic churches as well as a lot of more what they call liturgical churches, so churches that follow an established liturgy and things like that. You're not going to see it in all Christian churches, but you are going to see it in quite a few of them.
So some people observe Lent and others don't.
Yes.
Okay. So now so you talked about the origins of Lent, but what is this Ash Wednesday?
So Ash Wednesday was actually not even celebrated when Lent began. Lent began early in Christianity, so maybe like 100 years or so into Christianity. Ash Wednesday came out about 1100. So we're looking at, over 900 years ago that this tradition's been going on. And what people do, they save their branches from from Palm Sunday, which is the week before Easter. They save them for almost a whole year, and they burn them. They let them get dehydrated and things. Then they burn them and create ashes out of them. And they put ashes on someone's forehead, and they say, "From dust you were, and dust you will return," to remind people that life is sacred, life is precious, and life is not forever, so make the best out of it while you're here.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like the Lent season is a time of self-reflection for people in this faith group, and that the Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of the season. And then, so leading up to Ash Wednesday, we have the celebrations of Carnival and Mardi Gras and other, depending on your culture. Because in this period of Lent, it sounds like, well, what is fasting? I've heard of fasting.
So fasting's this time where people feel like if they give up something that they care about, it will help them become more focused and more disciplined in their life and in their walk.
Okay. Yeah, so people give up a lot. They sacrifice, or they voluntarily do not partake, such as in meat, for example. Most Catholics do not eat red meat during Lent. And so fasting is where you give up something in order to grow personally. So if I were at a Catholic Mass or a liturgical church service, what would look different on Ash Wednesday?
So on Ash Wednesday, they would have a service with a brief message given by the clergy person, but then they would have a time where people could reflect. It would maybe not as upbeat of a service, but more of a slower paced service. And then toward the end, they would take some ashes, and we have some here, and they would have people come up if they chose to. And the clergy person would take some ashes. It doesn't have to be a clergy person, it could be almost anybody. But they can take the ashes and put on someone's forehead and remind them that from ashes they come, to ashes they will return. And that begins that time of reflection for them.
Cool. Well, I can see in the camera that I have a big black blob on my forehead now. How long would I wear this?
For the rest of the day, if you chose to.
Okay. Well, if you see someone wearing a big black blob on their forehead on Ash Wednesday, you know what's happening. That they went to a Mass or a service that day. Well, thank you, Dr. Tolbert. I would shake your hand, but you've got all that ash, that palm ash. Wait, so how did you mix that? What's in it?
It's actually oil and ashes, just a little bit of oil, very, very little, mixed with some ashes. Otherwise, it would be way too liquidy and it would be a mess.
So ashes from the
From the palm branches, yeah, that people have in their services the week before Easter.
palm tree.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, that's Lent, and that is Ash Wednesday. We'll see you next time.